Customer generation is really about delivering on the promise demand gen forgot about. When I got into marketing and everything else, it's always I try to follow the best practices. What is everyone else doing, right? And much of demand generation is about driving marketing qualified leads, nurturing those, and like giving them to sales development so that they can turn those into opportunities. And frankly, I found out that that didn't work that great. And so I wanted to come up with something different. And so that's how this came to be. So what is customer generation? In its simplest form, it's a marketing methodology that we developed here at Directive across millions of dollars of spend that focuses on SQLs and customers instead of legacy metrics like MQLs. In other words, as marketers, I want to delete the concept of what can we fully own. Many marketers, almost all of them, frankly, and I get to work with them every day, want KPIs and metrics that they are independently held accountable to. And I believe that concept, that pursuit is the number one thing plaguing marketing today, is that I want to be independently held accountable instead of collaboratively partner with sales in a cohesive environment. And that's what we're trying to do, a little different. So in regards to what we've done for us, we've spent around $2 million testing this methodology in our research and development this year. And it frankly completely changed our company. We're at almost 150 people in headcount now. And it's been very, very effective in growing our business. Now, the big difference between demand gen and customer gen. So first and foremost, demand generation is usually using third-party data for targeting. That means when I go on LinkedIn, when I go on Facebook, when I go to advertise, I'm trusting in this advertiser's black box. On LinkedIn, I might be choosing on industry. On Facebook, I might be choosing a psychographic profile based off their targeting options. In either option, though, I don't know explicitly who I am advertising to. Number one, in customer generation, we actually do. So we're going to use manually verified data of your entire total addressable market. I'm going to show you how to do that today to advertise. In other words, we have manually verified every single account. It's like ABM on steroids. Okay. The other part of demand gen is it's very product led in many of these cases. In other words, this is our product and this is why you need it. And what customer generation needs to be about is customer led. Here's our product. Here's its different use cases. And here's how it's specifically relevant to you. We oftentimes see ROI as the goal. I don't know how many times you all have heard this in marketing, but you hear something like, hey, I want to start out with a small budget. And once I see ROI, I'm going to grow. Let me tell you, across hundreds of millions of dollars in 8 years doing this all day, every day, that is not a reality. And so what we wanted to do was get a better ratio of like LTV CAC and use that to measure. Marketers love, frankly, right now, using marketing qualified leads. We want to pull them to using sales qualified leads. The reason is sales qualified leads have been filtered. In other words, we are drawing alignment with sales instead of essentially disconnecting ourselves from sales with what MQLs is doing. In other words, we did our job. I don't know why sales couldn't monetize it. And we want to fix that. And then lastly, there's no such thing as B2B, right? It's all human to human. We want to create emotional experiences and learn from our direct to consumer kind of companions and fellow marketers on how we can create better, relevant, emotional experiences. Okay. So when we boil that all down, I'm going to give you 5 principles, and then we're going to unpack each principle today with practical takeaways that hopefully can change your viewpoint, your vantage point on how you think about going to market and driving revenue through marketing. So first one is first-party data. Then it's being customer-led. Then it's financial modeling. Then it's about SQLs and why. And then there's no such thing as B2B. So let's dive in. So the first principle, first-party data unlocks scale. So one of the biggest gaps in advertising today is directly connecting what we're doing in our advertising and our marketing to how it fits the business's vision. In other words, we have this business vision, this business strategy over here, and then we have advertising. And I want to blend and intertwine those, okay? And the way we do that is with a better data environment. So step 1 is building out your total addressable market. I've got 4 options on here as like a disclaimer. ZoomInfo is a customer of ours, but I do think they have the best data. So you have ZoomInfo, Seamless, Crunchbase, and Clearbit. Now, the goal of choosing this data provider is that we're going to build out our TAM. And in this case, TAM means total addressable market. And so when you do your TAM, I've found that these are some important things to base your research off of. So, employee size. I like using employee size more than revenue. Most companies are privately held and revenue is inaccurate. Employee size you can get from LinkedIn, you can scrape. Data providers are pretty accurate with it. I recommend number one. Number two, technology. What type of technology does your ideal customer have? For me, my ideal customer oftentimes has something like a Sixth Sense or a Demand Base or a Terminus or a Marketo or a HubSpot. And they have essentially certain technology in their tech stack that makes them more mature in their marketing. And I can place them higher on a maturity scale, meaning that they're more likely to have budget and be a good fit for our services, right? We work with mostly, like for us, this is how I do it. Mine is companies with over 100 employees, at least 25 million in funding, using one of those technologies I just mentioned in the United States. And then I actually built out my own data using the SEMrush API, the SpyFu API, and the Ahrefs API. And that's called Pulse. So we have over 30,000 SaaS companies organized by vertical and subvertical, and then fully ranked. This lets me know, okay, before I go sell someone, how much are they investing in the channels I manage? And I think that's critical information to know to make sure that they're qualified. In other words, with this approach to first-party data, I am manually verifying that every single solitary account in my total addressable market is like willing to pay our fees and fits our services. This is a critical part of the strategy. And then I want to manually verify. Now, no matter how good ZoomInfo is, Clearbit, Seamless, any data provider out there, what I have found, and this goes, by the way, for LinkedIn as well, the data sucks. Like, I'm going to be completely honest with you, it's not that great. So, like here in my environment, right, I got, based off my filtering criteria, I got 9,000 accounts. I then had to manually verify that. And when I was done manually verifying, I had 3.9 thousand accounts. So how do we manually verify? The way we manually verify is we want to look at their website. In my case, I'm targeting computer software as a category. Same category in LinkedIn exists in ZoomInfo, okay? Except I can actually see who's in that category in ZoomInfo. What I found is there's a lot of custom software development companies, a lot of companies that got acquired, a lot of companies where, frankly, the data providers got it wrong. And I want to be 1,000% confident that all 3.9 thousand accounts I want to have as a customer one day. And so we use our intern team to manually verify a lot of this data. And from that manual verification, I now have 3.9 thousand accounts. Once again, ABM on steroids, okay? This is my exact TAM I want to break into. Now, from here, this is where it gets special. And I wish I could see your lovely faces and I was on stage today. But I want to integrate my TAM into Salesforce, okay? When I integrate this total addressable market into Salesforce, I get the holy grail of reporting, okay? Now, if I could see your hands and I could do this, I'd be like, how many of you are able to report on total addressable market share you have taken in the last 12 months? In other words, you have this business strategy that says we want to penetrate 25% of the SaaS marketplace. As a marketer, frankly, it's really hard to report on that. Like, how many impressions did I deliver into those companies? How many sales meetings did I have booked? How many people made it to be a customer versus what life cycle stage? This is the beauty of this strategy. Now that we've manually verified our data, we know our exact total addressable market, we're going to upload it to Salesforce. And now, because it's in Salesforce, we are going to tier it. Tier 1 accounts, Tier 2 accounts, Tier 3 accounts, right? Of these accounts, they're not all created equal. So I want to know, number one, which are my best accounts, what SDRs. So if I get a meeting, right, with a Tier 4 account, which SDR does it go to? If I get in a meeting with a Tier 1 account, which AE does it go to? To which SDR? Do I want it to go to an SDR? Who do I need from operations or a service line leader to be on that call? I can actually design my entire sales process pre-lead because I've already identified what happens if I get this company who I've already put in this tier, okay? And now, for example, at Directive, following the methodology that I'm going to roll out today, in the last year, we have taken 62% market share in the SaaS space and are almost twice the size of our nearest competitor. This is all due to the fact of how we're advertising and going to market, and it truly works. Okay. And you can report on that. Imagine going to your board right now and talking about the amount of market share you took and how much more budget you need to get the rest of the market. That is a much healthier conversation that aligns with the business's vision that will unlock not only your budget, but give you a seat at the table. And I think it's a very special place to be. Now, let's talk about being customer led over product led. Okay. Now, your product is not for the masses. This is essentially this point. Most of us have a product and we talk about why it's so great, but not about the jobs to be done, essentially the outcomes it drives and what it accomplishes for your business or for your customers. So most of us do it like this. Okay. We start with talking about what we are selling: product A, product B, product C. Now, what I'd like us to evolve to in this customer generation methodology is solution A to segment A, solution B to segment B, solution C to segment C. This gives us a much more granular approach that allows us to articulate the value of our product through the lens of our ideal customer and start to segment our audiences. Now, oh man, I wish this was a little bigger for you. So you'll be able to see it when you download the deck. But we're looking at things right now like, what are your challenges and pain points for each product? And then how does that map to its solution and its customer base? What is the decision criteria for buying this product? What are the jobs to be done? In other words, when I get this product, what does it help me accomplish in my life? What is our unique viewpoint? Why is our product different than everything else? I have a little saying that I truly believe in. Okay. This is important in marketing. People will pay more for different. They won't pay more for better. In other words, when you market and position your product or your services, the key is, how do you see the world different than your competitors? Not how is the world better than your competitors? Because better is very easy to be commoditized. Different is very easy to be elastic and change your pricing and go up market and create margin. It's very important. Okay. Now, I want to give you an example of this so you can not get it from this kind of theory and like trying to understand it to actually applying it. So this example is workable. They're an applicant tracking software for companies that have HR managers at under 100 employees. Now, notice how they're using jobs to be done and organizing their product menu. This is one of the best menus I've ever seen. It's, here's how I help you as Workable source and attract, evaluate and collaborate, automate and hire. These are the jobs to be done. These are the outcomes you get by paying us. This is a very, very strong way of positioning yourself and categorizing the product. And this is at the bottom and funnel. This is when someone has purchase intent. They're looking at your product. They want a solution. This is purchase intent. Now, what Workable does so well is they not only do this just for their purchase intent, they scale this. Now, one of my favorite things in the world is getting to look out at your faces and get us to kind of, I guess, commiserate together as marketers. And I think the biggest problem we have with marketing and when it comes to content today is everyone in our company who has something worth saying you can't get to rank. In other words, your company has thought leaders and it is absolutely hell trying to get them to publish anything for your business. At least that's what happens to me. I don't know if that happens to you. And so what I wanted to come up with was a way, as a consultant who deals with this daily, right? Like, hey, who do you have at, Workable, who has a real viewpoint on what the future of applicant tracking looks like, so I can position your product as thought leaders? Well, that pretty much doesn't happen a lot. I really need a founder or frankly a CEO that is baked into the idea of thought leadership and believes in it. And frankly, that's not normally the case. And so what I wanted to come up with was a concept called functional content. And I think Workable does functional content better than anyone else. Functional content is content that I can easily bridge between informational intent. Like think about what a lot of us do. What is ATS, right? Like, what is ERP software? What is how, why, informational intent content, high volume, low purchase intent, hard to monetize, with bottom of funnel by like ERP software reviews, where oftentimes we can't even rank because Capterra, G2 Crowd, Software Advice, and all these consolidation of review sites like the Yelp of B2B dominate. So what do? Well, we need a way of connecting people from informational intent to purchase. And so the way Workable does this is through functional content, what I'm calling job descriptions. In other words, they know that this HR manager at a company with under 100 employees is constantly having to write job descriptions, and they don't know what the heck they're talking about. They don't know how to do a cost analyst job description for the accounting department. So they look it up. Well, Workable is ranking for it. Now, what is so smart about what Workable does is they're not just ranking for a generic job description keyword that does nothing for their pipeline. Instead, what they're doing is they're fully integrating that content to their product. So not only can you discover their job description, you can actually directly post that job description in their platform by simply creating an account. This is a perfect bridge between informational intent and purchase intent, and it's driving this product-led growth at a customer level. It's exceptionally cool, and I highly recommend you check it out. It's their HR toolkit. You can find it in their footer, and it's pretty inspirational to how you can think about super scalable content, right? Like writing a job description, you don't need a thought leadership for, right? Anyone can write a job description that you can outsource that to a writer, but it can still be relevant to your brand and drive your growth. Pretty cool. And they're doing 35 million visits a year from this. So definitely recommend. You should check them out. It's pretty inspirational. For me, I'll tell you how we do our bridge. Our bridge is our free Slack group called Society. In other words, I want someone, like I think the problem with our content marketing is we have to transactionally monetize it in B2B. In other words, I write an article, why SQLs are better than MQLs, right? And I do a whole 3,000 word post. I put my heart and soul into this thing. And then 99.9% of people read that. And my only call to action in most agencies is book a proposal, or in software, book a demo. Well, most people, frankly, aren't ready to book a demo, and your piece wasn't that good that all of a sudden they're like, you're right. I'm going to fire my agency under contract and magically hire you in this moment. And so, in other words, they discover our brand, but we don't give them any way to engage or interact with our brand. And so what we do at Directive is we have our free Slack group called Society. And here you can post a question and it lets all of our consultants interact with you free of charge. What I'm trying to do is get away from the one directional old way of doing kind of brand marketing. In other words, sign up for my newsletter and I'm going to send you information, compared to join my community and I'm going to work with you free of charge and I'm going to build my brand with you. And that's our bridge. So I highly recommend you look at more bi-directional communication ways of building your community and growing your brand. And now here's how we've organized it. And you can kind of see this at a strategy level of how we work with customers. So the way you figure out how to become customer-led for yourself. First, you got to understand your ideal customer persona and their jobs to be done. So ICP, ideal customer persona, JTBD, jobs to be done. Okay. Well, you got to map that all out. And you saw that on that earlier slide. Then we need to have offers. Most of us don't actually think about what our offer is. How do I get someone from apathy to action, even if the timing's not right? In other words, what's our incentive? We got to do our audience research to truly understand that. Personas suck. It's a tangent, but it's an important one. A lot of us have personas, okay? Personas are kind of like the book you never read that lives on your work shelf, like over here, that you have to have because it's like part of being a marketer. Like everyone has personas, but very rarely do they drive growth. And one of the reasons they don't drive growth is because you have too small of a budget spread out over too many personas and you learn nothing. I can't tell you how many clients I have that have too small of a budget but don't want to leave anything on the table. And so they're running Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Reddit, GitHub, whatever types of ads they're running, okay? Across like 10K a month. And I'm like, fam, we got to do 10K per channel or per persona. And we got to actually learn. In other words, when you spread out your budget too thin, what you'll find is you're actually delaying your learnings. And you want to improve your learnings by consolidating budget, making bigger bets, going all in and learning. And then from that success, growing budget. In other words, if you want to market to more segments or more personas, you need more money. Don't take your existing money and spread it thinly. It's a very bad capital allocation strategy, in my opinion. So then we got to plan our campaigns and then map our messaging. Okay. And this is kind of how you become customer led as a business. Now, obviously, everyone here got into marketing due to their love of finance and modeling. No, a little sarcasm. Most of us are not great at finance, and we're not that great at financial modeling. It's a shame. So one of, I think, the reasons why sales sometimes gets more budget than we do is because they're better at tying that budget to the business's forecast than we are. In other words, I need X amount of ops, and if I do this many demos or proposals, I'll get this much revenue. And here's my average order value. And here's why you need to include a bigger budget for sales if you want to hit that revenue target next quarter. Marketing's over here saying, well, look at, we give you leads, and then we do this kind of fake life cycle stage pipeline that doesn't have time decay and is based off of leads instead of ops, and we miss our forecast pretty badly. I see this happen all the time. So what I want to do today is give you a financial model that, I love. My background's economics. And so before I got into marketing, I was doing economics and building out models. And so first thing we want to do is get our numbers right. So we're going to have to get a couple pieces of information to fill this out. Primarily what you'll see is gross margin. How much does it cost for us to deliver our services or product to our customer? What is our cost of goods sold, our gross margin? What's the lifespan of a customer? How well do we retain them, or our churn rate? And then what's our monthly average order value? From this, we get your lifetime value. We then take into account your cost, how much you're spending, your team costs, software costs, etc. And then we can map out essentially what our lifetime value to customer acquisition cost ratio is. And we're looking for something greater than 3. Okay. And in this, you're going to have a model. So if you don't have this data and you're like, hey, maybe I need to raise my prices. Maybe I need to improve my gross margin. Maybe I need to improve my retention rate. I put this column in here called model, and you can actually model it out. And I would put it on a unit economic of 1. So you can set the deals to 1. And then you can say, how much can I spend to get a customer? And that'll help you build out your cost per demo, cost per lead, cost per SQL, cost per any life cycle stage you want, and build out all your financial KPIs. Okay. Now, what it also does is it not only lets you evaluate kind of what you need to do, but what you need to do to accomplish your goals. And that's really important. As a side note, I'm using first touch attribution because in this case, I want to know if I gave you $100,000, what would you get from it directly? And first touch attribution is better to understand capital allocation because it's taking money and putting it specifically into something to get something specifically back. Okay. Now, what our LTV CAC tool does, and you're going to get it, okay, total download here for you all to check out. It lets you forecast. And this is awesome because as marketers, we suck at this. We're really bad at pushing back on our goals based off our budget. And what I mean by that is I can't tell you how many marketers I get to work with every day where like the board has their, revenue target goes up 30%, but budget goes up 5%. What this model will let you do is once you put in your last quarter's historicals, it'll project out based off the goals of the board, finance, CRO, CMO, CEO, whoever that executive is who's setting it. You can actually model out, okay, so you want me to grow demos by 25% in Q3. Well, to do so, I'm going to need another $25,000 in spend, but the incremental ROI from that spend is over $36K. Is this approved? This is going to give you such a healthier and more mature way of articulating how you accomplish goals as a marketer than you have right now. And I highly recommend you check it out. So we've got our first party data. We know why we need to be customer led. We have our financial model. Now we need to go to market and drive sales qualified leads. In other words, get people directly to a meeting instead of marketing qualified leads. I like to say marketing qualified leads are like balloons. Okay. I'm getting to work with some of the smartest CMOs of publicly traded companies, as well as privately held companies. Okay. These people are brilliant. And I can't tell you how often they either get fired, performance reviews, or budgets cut because they're reporting on leads. And then what happens is when you dive deep enough, you find a very low connection between marketing qualified leads generated in a given period and revenue made. And when that happens, the balloon pops and there's nothing inside, and they have to pivot, and they haven't developed the channels, and the whole thing kind of collapses, and they either get replaced, whether they're an agency, a consultant, or an employee, and the, the direction of the company, they pivot. And I want us to avoid that. Okay. It happens all the time, and we can avoid it by simply focusing on sales qualified leads. This drives alignment. In other words, I want to be measured and be considered successful when the company makes money. It's the simplest way to stay aligned as a marketer. Okay. Now, how do you do this? Okay. So, in other words, what we're trying to do is a new way. Let's just use, in this example, LinkedIn. Okay. So, if you're running LinkedIn ads, if everybody could raise their hands and I could see your faces, it would be like, how many people here have tried to do content downloads on LinkedIn and found it was too expensive, didn't drive pipeline, and they had to pause? Everybody's hand, if they're in B2B, would be up, right? We've all done the ultimate guide to demand generation, sent it to an SDR, and had the SDR call them and be like, nah, never read it, don't know it, sorry, not going to happen. So here's why financially this doesn't work. If you're the chief revenue officer and you look at this and you say, okay, we're driving leads from LinkedIn, but they don't have intent. How much is a lead from LinkedIn costing us? Let's say it's $45 to $75 per lead. I would just go back to my sales org and say, hey, can you just buy that lead from Zoom Info for 75 cents? They have the same intent as the lead marketing sending, and it's 1,000 times cheaper. They said, yeah, no problem. And next thing you know, your company is taking money from marketing and putting it into sales development because it's cheaper. And we got to be cognizant of how we avoid that. And the way we avoid that, and like how at Directive we're outperforming sales development teams for our customers, is using a really strong incentive. In other words, I need to get someone who is scrolling LinkedIn to get to a sales meeting in one campaign, right? Here's what we're fighting as advertisers to set a little bit more of the landscape, because this is important. Google search, okay? Google search has purchase intent, meaning we can position our brand to be discovered when people are looking for specific queries that we believe are indicative that they are ready to buy from us. Because of that, it's expensive. However, there's a part where it doesn't work, and this is especially true in B2B SaaS and innovative industries. Most software companies exist to serve a specific niche. In other words, they are not a software for everyone. They're a software for a specific someone. And if that is the case for your business, what you will find is that you end up with a lot of irrelevant leads. Either they don't have budget for you, and then when you pivot to enterprise, you lose volume. They're not niche down enough, and you pivot to your niche and you make it more niche queries, no volume. And you find out that Google search doesn't scale that well, and you have no firmographic control. In other words, it's very hard to control lead quality from Google search. Every time you improve your lead quality, you hurt your volume, even with automated bidding and OCT and the most advanced technology. And there's issues there. Doesn't mean Google doesn't work. It's just hard to truly change the revenue of your business if you serve a specific audience with Google search. Conversely, you have paid social, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever that is for you. The problem with paid social is it's expensive because it has firmographic data, and we don't have any intent. In other words, we don't know if people are in the market for our services, and the Bombora and the third-party data out there sucks. So we're stuck, right? We got LinkedIn where we have targeting, but no intent. No, we have Google where we have intent, but no targeting. So that is where customer generation comes to life. So what do? We build out our total addressable market, and we manually verify every client we want. We build out our financial model so we know how much we can pay for every life cycle stage in our pipeline. We become customer-led, so we resonate with the outcomes our product or service drives, not what we think it does for you, but what you think it does for you. And then lastly, we get a great incentive. How do I get someone who's on social media, who's not searching for us, to say, you know what, I will take 30 minutes of my time to hop on a call with you? Well, we do that with gift cards. We're like freaking Santa Claus over here. I think I've given out over $500,000 in gift cards in the last year. But guess what? It works. Incentives work. It doesn't have to be gift cards. It could be anything. It could be physical gifts. It could be experiences. But incentivizing someone to take a meeting works. And here, check this out. It's actually cheaper for you. So here's data from a couple $1 million in spend, and it is statistically significant. I have a much lower cost per lead by giving someone a $100 gift card than I do from even a $50 gift card. It is almost twice as expensive to not incentivize someone to meet. Because remember, I'm no longer measuring myself on, hey, I'm a marketer and I got a lead, I did a good job, but instead measuring myself that I generated a sales qualified lead. And that means I did a good job. In other words, what percent of users that I'm advertising to are making it to a sales conversation? And the key is then incentivizing the action you want. So we tie the $100 gift card to taking the sales meeting, which is our objective in SQL. Now, to send these gift cards at scale, we use Sendoso. Sendoso, as a side note, is also a customer, but I do think they're the best at sending gift cards. So I highly recommend them. We've been using them for almost 2 years now, and it's a pretty cool platform. Directly integrates with Salesforce. Your SDRs, your AEs, your team will use it. I do recommend it. Now, I wanted to give you all the copy. So like straight up, this is the copy that has driven over $15 million in revenue in 2021 for our business. It works. Okay. So I want to point out though some of the reasons why it works, because I have found one of the biggest areas of opportunity for our own consultants and for marketers in general is copywriting. We don't learn copywriting like back in the day. We're not writing half-page ads like Ogilvy in print. Okay, it's a new world we live in, and so I want to point out a couple things. First is 29 minutes. I think 29 minutes is important. I'm not saying 30 minutes. I'm saying 29 minutes. One of our mantras at Directive is, and I believe you should all have this in your marketing department, is a mantra. So our mantra is everything we do at Directive is shockingly memorable, financially validated, and strategically aligned for the next 36 months. And then I define what each of those three things mean below, right? Shockingly memorable means in a world full of display ads and irrelevant advertising, will you always remember the experience we created? Financially validated means if we launch a new campaign, will it have an LTV CAC ratio of greater than 2? And do we believe with optimization and time, it can get to a ratio of greater than 3? And then strategically aligned means if the business raises its rates by 2x, which is what we're trying to do tomorrow, would this channel or campaign still work? Okay. And so we define that. And that's what drives the alignment and gives our team a lot of creative freedom. Well, the other thing we're doing is we're encouraging action. Take a call. This is not passive language. This is active language. Take a call with one of our experts after I'll send you a $105 gift card. It's not we'll send you, it's I'll send you. We're humanizing this sender. Okay. We're using social proof with New Relic and Zoom info. We're having a viewpoint. They rely on us to drive revenue, not just MQL and leads. And we have our services here. So this is kind of how we do it. And then if you say not sure, we send you to our society group. So we're still able to monetize essentially you by getting you into our brand experience. And that's where that bridge we talked about earlier comes back into play. Now, I'm going to give you all some kind of tricks of the trade from doing this and what I found worked. The first thing we have to have is a scheduling tool. Okay. Calendly or Chili Piper. Once again, Chili Piper is a customer, but I do think they're the best at routing at scale. So Chili Piper is awesome because when we used Calendly, what we found is we couldn't cap individual SDRs on their schedule. Like, so let's say I have 2 SDRs who can each do 10 intro calls a day. Okay. I want to make sure neither SDR has more than 10, but I need them both to be scheduled off the same link. Calendly wouldn't let me set individual caps on a shared link. So Susan might show up on Tuesday and have 20 calls and Billy might have none. And on Wednesday, vice versa, and you get your team burnt out. So I'm using Chili Piper to do that. Now, the biggest point though, is I'm getting people when we're advertising to them to make a commitment. So here's the data. Without Chili Piper, in other words, I'm running a convo ad to you and you fill out the convo ad, you pre-fill your information to that lead gen format and you submit it. And then if I have my SDR follow up with you to try to schedule the meeting, I have a 34% form fill to intro held rate. If I get you to schedule the meeting in that moment on your own with Chili Piper, I have a 51% meeting. So the simplest thing you can do right now to monetize anything is make sure when someone fills out a form on your website right now, let's say like a demo or any of your ad campaigns or landing pages, make sure they can book the sales meeting after they fill out your form in real time. It is the simplest, most effective thing you can do to drive more ROI right now today. And it's super cheap. Okay. So hyper recommend this. Instead of like someone from sales will reach back out in 24 hours, have them actual schedule a meeting in real time. Can't recommend it enough. Number 2, both your salespeople stink. Okay. I love salespeople. I'm a sales guy. Most of us, myself included, are better at demonstrating than we are selling. Okay. So this whole strategy took us 6 months to monetize. And the reason it took us 6 months to monetize is because our sales org was good at selling people that explicitly had wanted us. In other words, most of your salespeople are good at selling people who have requested a demo because all they're doing is showing them the product. They're not good at getting people who are on the fence about really maybe doing this. They're not good at actually selling them, like getting them to believe in what you offer and how it can change their life. So we had to train our team. This is a tool called Insight Squared. It helped us with sales process adherence. It's pretty cool, especially, our team books around 15 to 25 meetings a day now with that manually verified audience. Well, when you have a high volume, high velocity sales environment, it's hard to stay disciplined. So a tool like this helps. We also started to help with bands. Now, you might think this isn't my job as a marketer, but if you're being held accountable to revenue, which I think you should be, how well you support sales and partner with them is indicative of how well you are successful. And so here's how we think about it: budget, authority, needs, timing. For us, we sell multiple service lines. So we want to know, we don't want to just be like, oh, you want organic? Great. Here's our SEO thing. We want to be like, hey, how's your paid media? Do you feel good about your creative? Hey, when you drive a lead, do you know what happens afterwards in your life cycle stages? Strategically, how comfortable do you feel if I were to give you another $150,000 that you could spend it the right way, right? We want to figure out what are their pain points and can we make the average order value grow up by having more services. Now, we also figured out some other stuff. It's pretty cool. Number 1, we got to send better reminders. Many of us, if they schedule a meeting, might only send 1 reminder. We want to do at least 3. So 2 emails and 1 text. We're using Twilio to send text reminders. It's pretty cool. We also want a hype video. When you use a gift card or a monetary incentive, what you'll find is very many people want the incentive more than they want you. So the trick here is to get them from wanting the incentive to wanting you. And the way you do that is with a hype video. Okay. So once they fill out that form, we're going to send them in that first email a hype video to get them excited about the meeting and let them to learn more about us. And I'll show you what that hype video looks like in a second. We also don't try to set any meetings on Monday mornings or Friday afternoons. We found really high no-show rates during those times. Now, this is how crazy it is. Without a video, we had a 64% meeting rate, aka they filled out our form, they would show up 64% of the time. When we introduced the hype video, we got them to show up 84% of the time. It is that effective. We do the video internally in-house. We sell video here, and I'll show you what it looks like. It's pretty sweet. And then lastly, I wanted to scale, okay? So we're running this campaign, and our primary revenue driver is conversation ads. Convo ads are awesome. If you haven't tried them yet, they work great. They're everything text ads weren't, frankly, in LinkedIn. They work great. And sponsored in-mail. Sponsored in-mail sucks. Text ads kind of stink. Convo ads crush it. Now, one of the reasons why convo ads crush it is your receiver, your recipient, the person you're advertising to, can only get 1 ad from any company in the entire world every 30 days. That is why they work. But they also makes it really difficult. If you're running a convo ad campaign right now, you might see a recommended bid of like $1 or $2 or 30 cents. I found you should always set your bids at $10. Okay. So bid way higher because it's not that expensive to deliver it, but it is very expensive to not actually get your ads delivered because someone outbid you for that exact persona, that exact human. Okay. So number 1, we want to do that. Number 2, once convo ad is working, we want to start sponsored content. So we can take that same creative and bring it over to a sponsored content. Let's see if I have an example. Oh, I don't have a perfect example. It's kind of like this. So you run a sponsored content ad in LinkedIn. Now, sponsored content is pricey. It gives you a lot more scale than convo ads, but not that much scale. If you want to know how active your LinkedIn audience is, once you have your manually verified data, and since you're partnered with sales, go to LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Upload your TAM to LinkedIn Sales Navigator as a list. What you'll find is a very small percent of your total audience of humans have actively posted in the last 90 days on LinkedIn. In other words, LinkedIn audience sizes are kind of fake. And so what I wanted to do was I wanted to scale my campaigns, but at a lower cost. So let's introduce Clearbit X. Clearbit X allows me to take my same data environment, but instead of being codependent on Facebook's targeting, which stinks for B2B, I could use the LinkedIn level targeting in my first party data on Clearbit. And so with that, you're able to scale like crazy. This is Clearbit X, is their advertising product. Okay. And so we've now spent probably $500,000. I got to update this slide, so apologies. Driven, 341% ROI, 5.6 million in pipeline. And this is my favorite part. It's 63% lower cost per proposal given than LinkedIn sponsored content. So Clearbit does have a SaaS fee. So that's why I say start on sponsored content, prove to yourself that it works in convo ads and sponsored content, and then buy Clearbit X. And that's how you can get a lot more scale, because now you're advertising on Facebook and Instagram, which have a lot higher usage rates and audience sizes than LinkedIn does. Okay. And then lastly, there's no such thing as B2B. I despise the creative in B2B. It's like we neutered ourselves. It's like we are optimizing for approval, not differentiation. Like, I can't tell you how many great ideas in B2B get bastardized and crushed because every single solitary human, that person who's ever worked at that company, has to approve it. And at the end, you end up looking like every other homepage in your space. Your copy says nothing that, frankly, meaningful, but let's say adventurous or risky. And you end up saying boring copy with boring creative and make yourself look like a boring company that's more enterprise. That sucks. We don't need to be a boring B2B company. I would love for you to look at Baboon to the Moon in the D2C space. Look at Drink House in the B2C space. Start to get inspired by artists, direct-to-consumer companies, people that have a way to create emotion. And I'm going to show you how we do that today. Okay? But marketing is emotional. So the question is, how do we connect emotionally with our total addressable market, and within our total addressable market, our ideal customer persona? How do we emotionally connect with them? So let me show you how we do that. Oh, I guess I can't today. It doesn't look like my video made the presentation. So you can't see it right now. Apologies. What I want you to do is go to our YouTube page. So search Directive on YouTube, and then check out the way we're doing it. You'll see very quickly what our hype video is and how we're articulating our value. Now, the point of that is the emotion I'm trying to stir is confidence. I think everyone in the world has been burned by an agency. Okay. And I want our ideal customer to be like, yes, I know those brands. I've seen those IPOs. I want the team that helped this company go from a Series A to IPO. I want that on my team. I don't want to replace my in-house team. I want to partner with the sharpest people in the world that can give me more leverage on my capital. I want to instill confidence. Maybe for your business, you want someone to feel free. Maybe you want them to be conscientious. Maybe you want them to feel secure. Maybe you want FOMO, uniqueness, relaxedness, success, popularity. Whatever it is, I'd love for you to think after this session, what type of emotion do I want to evoke in my ideal customer persona to get them from apathy to action? So, in closing, where can you learn more about customer generation and this new way of going to market? It genuinely works, and I would love for you to stop relying on this black box of data, not being financially modeled, being product-led instead of customer-led, being emotionless instead of emotional. I want us to embrace this because it frankly works. So you can join Society. Society is a free Slack group. You can literally DM me any question you have. We have over 1,000 members. All our customers are in there. I'm talking the smartest, baddest marketers in the game are in here. Like, if you want to know, should I buy demand-based, terminus, or radius? Answer, told, like, break it down, or metadata. Like, you're going to have someone who's spent hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars on a platform that'll break it down for you. We also do 2 live shows a week, Sour and SaaS Marketing Makeover. Really, really cool shows, hyper informative, amazing guests. Um, you can also book a call, right? So you can chat with sales if you ever want to chat with us. And thank you so much. If you have any questions, I'd love to answer them. So thank you, everybody.
One of them is, what does this typically look like in a volume change from traditional demand gen methods? And they're talking specifically about the gift cards. Is it a 10 to 1, 100 to 1 change, etc.?
Yeah. So, I mean, the first part is I never felt fully confident advertising because I never knew who I would get. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? Like you build out your targeting, you build out your kind of targeting options, and you're always tweaking. Do I add skills? What about function? What about seniority? What about this title? Right? We're always playing that game, but we still don't know what the hell who we're advertising to until they fill out our form and sales says they like it or not. Now, with first party data, we work with sales, so everyone's on the same page that we all agree this is a client we want. So we start there. Now, to answer your question of volume, it's going to depend on your budget, the size of your audience, and the quality, frankly, of your copy and your positioning. Like Directive, I only service SaaS. That means the people I hire, the services I launch, the creative I design, the copy I write, the customers I use, the positioning I have in the market, everything works. A lot of my customers serve 12 verticals, 4 different personas, and it's hard for them to resonate. So if you got A plus positioning, strong budget, good TAM, I went from doing, let's say, 3 to 5 form fills a day to up to 30 a day. So I would say like 6x, 5x. I think you could do 5x volume with gift cards and this methodology than what you're doing today.
Last question. Someone asked, they were talking again about the gift cards. Does this make the relationship with a with another brand simply transactional, where there's no brand affinity with who is selling it?
Yes, it does if you do it wrong. Um, so like for us, remember society, remember that community?
Yeah.
That's important. When someone's in our pipeline, we do roundtables to teach them, educate them. We do a lot to be human in this entire process. Every proposal we do is custom. So no, there's nothing, and we don't do really, we do 12-month contracts. So everything we do is relational. The question is, how do I get someone who's scrolling on LinkedIn to say, you know what, screw it, I will give you 29 minutes of my time? And
Mhm.
that is hard as hell. And I'll tell you right now, it doesn't work by being like, hey, Tim, do you have 15 minutes next Tuesday to hop on a call like every other SDR in the world? It don't work, fam. I'm telling you, I've spent it. I've done it. I ran SDRs for 5 years. I got my ass kicked for 5 years. You need incentives to break through the noise. Now, how you determine what that incentive is can align with your brand values. Maybe you're like, look, I want the world to be more artistic. So you only send people handcrafted Etsy gifts instead of gift cards. Maybe you want the world to move more. So you send Allbirds running shoes for $99. Maybe you want, so you can take the world and how you want it to exist and be creative as a marketer, because whatever you spend, you've already financially validated and you've confirmed exactly who you're advertising the offer to. So it's worth it. So it doesn't have to be that way. And I think, Kenneth, along that line, the biggest complaint I hear is like, well, won't people only want the gift card? Yeah, maybe if your brand has nothing to say and you're not differentiated and you aren't working on it. What I found to work and what we trained our sales development team on to do is to appeal to people's ego. I've never met someone in my entire life who likes to be perceived as cheap. So the way we kick off our conversations is say, hey, Kenneth, you're an established marketer who makes great money. You've been here before. You're obviously not in this meeting for the $100. Okay. You've
Right,
got plenty
right.
of cash. You're here to learn more about what you can do to better hit your goals. And so, frankly, with good conversation skills and positioning, you can make it not about the gift card, but instead about Kenneth's objectives.
Yeah, good point. I may still send you an email and ask you for a free pair of AirPods or something, but
Yeah.
job well done. I really appreciate the conversation. Garrett, keep killing it, and I will talk to you soon, and really appreciate the content today, buddy.